Yo guys, what is good? It's your boy Blank Online. Today, we're going to be talking about the Infinity Ward E3 panel that just went on. I just finished watching it, so I'm here recording this video to 1, outline what was said in the panel, and 2, express my thoughts on everything that was said. We'll just get straight up into it. The conference started with obviously the reveal trailer that we've all seen a million times, getting people ready for the panel, of course. They brought out Taylor, Jacob, and Joel from Infinity Ward to obviously talk about the game. And at the start of the panel, they talked about a lot of things that we already knew. They talked about how it's a reimagining, it's a new universe, it's a new story. It's not a Modern Warfare 4, it's not a prequel, it's a whole new universe and a whole new thing. One thing that I did find interesting was that some of the original Infinity Ward members actually came back to Infinity Ward because they found out that they're developing Modern Warfare once again. If you guys don't know, in the time of Modern Warfare 2, when Modern Warfare 2 was in its actual cycle, when it was 2009 and people were playing the game and it was the new Call of Duty, in the middle of that whole thing, there was a falling out between Infinity Ward, the original Infinity Ward, and Activision. And what ended up happening was a lot of the original IW members actually went off to EA and created their own studio, which is Respawn Entertainment, and they're responsible for 2 Titanfall games, Apex Legends, and anything else they may have worked on. But those 3 are the main 3 that they're known for. And it's interesting to realize that some of those people who actually went from Infinity Ward to Respawn went back to Infinity Ward because of Modern Warfare. They talked about why this game is not a Modern Warfare 4 or a prequel, and I found it really interesting. They talked about how this Modern Warfare game is more grounded and intimate storytelling rather than a spectacle storytelling. It was compared a lot to the previous trilogy and what they've done in the previous trilogy and what they're not doing for this one. In the previous trilogy, they talked about how they set out to make Modern Warfare a representation of what Modern Warfare was at that point in time. They talked about how you could get headlines and there'd be a representation of that headline in the game, right? So whatever was happening in the world at that time was represented in the Modern Warfare games. So it was more relatable, it was more intimate. But then they got to a point where nukes were set off and World War III happened, and it was just batshit crazy, and it was just a action movie spectacle, which is not what made Modern Warfare Modern Warfare. What made Modern Warfare was the fact that it was a representation, was the fact that you got missions like No Russian, was the fact that you could see things happening in the game and you're like, holy shit, that's kind of like what's happening in the real world. And that's what they're kind of getting back to. They're not being held back by the previous games, but they're capturing the spirit of the original trilogy, right? So they're not held back by the fact that nukes were set off. They're not held back by the fact that World War III happened. New universe, new story, but still in capturing the spirit of Modern Warfare. And also making and bringing it back to the fact that of what made Modern Warfare, and that's that you're looking at this game and you're playing this game and you're seeing the events happening and you're playing out those events and you're thinking, shit, this is happening in real life at the moment. This certain aspect or this certain theme is going on in the world around us, and it's that much more relatable because you instantly relate that to what's happening in real life, because even though it doesn't directly affect us, it's affecting the world around us. And that's what this game is aiming to capture. And that's what this game is aiming to bring to players, is that fact that this stuff is happening in real life. There's real people out there in the world that is doing exactly what we're playing. There's real people out there that have gone on missions and that are keeping the world safe, and nobody knows about it. Nobody knows what they did. Nobody knows the sacrifices that they made. That's what this game aims to bring to light, that there's people out there that are doing this stuff and we don't even know it. They talked a lot about the level design as well. They talked about how originally and how their levels before would be waves and waves of enemies, large corridors, large doors. But what they're doing with this game is that they're scaling it back. They're going 1-to-1 level design. So if they talked about a level in Britain where they're doing a house raid and there's multi levels to this house, and obviously you and your team are going in to fulfill some sort of mission. They talked about how they scaled that level back from being that original open corridor, large door design to being 1-to-1. So it's more claustrophobic, it's more intense, more close quarters. And they did this because when they actually got Navy SEAL soldiers to act out these things and actually act how they would do it in real life. And the movements that they did, they describe it like in the panel, they describe seeing the movements they made and implementing that motion capture and those movements into the game looks stupid because the level was so large, like it just didn't look right. So what they did is they again scaled it back to 1-to-1 and it looked instantly better, which says a lot about the gameplay we're going to be seeing here in Modern Warfare. Obviously you're going to get your waves and waves of enemies, and you're going to have your big open maps, and you're going to be shooting the shit and doing all that. But there's gonna be a lot of levels, especially when you're with Captain Price, a lot of levels where you're kind of just have a handful of enemies in this one building, but the situation amps up the intensity. The fact that it's you and your team and you're all close together, it's close quarters, it's really small corridors, really small staircases, it's claustrophobic as hell. There's civilians in the building, so you can't just spray and pray, because if you spray into the wall, there's actually bullet penetration in this game. So if you spray the wall, you can actually shoot a civilian and in effect end the mission. You have to start again, right? Just that whole fact that there's going to be a handful of enemies, and the fact that if you see 1 or 2 enemies, that's a big thing, because you're like, holy shit, there's 1 or 2 enemies. I have to be really careful of how I engage these people, because if I shoot into a wall, that could hurt someone. If I do anything that could harm all the other people in the building, that could lead to me having to restart the mission. Check those corners, right? Check those corners is what Captain Price always says in the missions. You're actually going to have to do that in these missions. So it's pretty cool. In my opinion, it's pretty dope how they're designing these levels and they're making it more intense, like stripping away the spectacle, stripping away all that and bringing it more grounded, bringing it more intimate, bringing it claustrophobia, adding that element into it, stripping away all the, like as I said, stripping away all the enemies and bringing it to more of a handful of enemies, and how you react to only having 1, 2, 3, 4 enemies in a building full of civilians. Like, right? How do you change your strategy to engage these people? It's super interesting, and I'm super excited to actually play this campaign, because the way they're saying it and the way they're selling this campaign, super dope to me. They talked a lot more about the characters in this game, the different sides as well. So you play as a tier 1 operator with Captain Price, which is the one side of the spectrum, and then you got the other side of the spectrum is where you play a CIA operator who is embedded with a local militia in the Middle East, right? So you have these two different sides. There's what we've seen in previous Modern Warfare games, like for example the original Modern Warfare, you had the SAS side with Captain Price, Soap and all them, and then you had the US Marine side, and those two paralleling stories actually came together in one thing, which is what I speculate and what I most likely think is going to be happening with this campaign as well. You have your tier 1 side, your SAS side, and then you have your other local militia side in the Middle East, and eventually those two stories will come as one. They talked about the 4 main characters we'll be seeing in this game, and it's super interesting to see what they did here. So you have Captain Price. Obviously we all know Captain Price. He's your commander, he's your leader, he's the guy you're going to be following in the game. Then you have Sergeant Kyle Garrick, which is the playable character. He's the guy that you play as in the game when you're on that side of this coin, when you're on that side of the story, and you'll be following Captain Price. And they talked about more about Kyle's character, what his morals are, what his standards are, and essentially he's just a guy that thinks that we can do more, right? If we just did more, the world would be a better place. So essentially Captain Price says, hey, if you want to do more, come with me and let's make the world a better place. So that's that side of the coin. The other side of the coin is with your CIA operator. His name is Alex. Like, we don't have a last name for Alex, and I'm thinking that might be some sort of Easter egg, his last name, or some sort of callback, or maybe he is a character we've played as before, and and like it's kind of just a secret about who he is. But anyway, Alex, he's the playable character on the opposite side of the coin, in that local militia in the Middle East. He is who you're playing as, and you have your opposite to Captain Price, which is Farah Kareem. Now she is the leader of this local militia. The difference between, they explain it as the difference between her and Captain Price is that Captain Price chose to fight, she didn't. The war came to her, and it was either fight or give up, and she chose to fight. Now she's in this position of power, she's in this position of leadership that she didn't exactly choose to. She didn't exactly choose to be fighting in this war. It just so happened that the war came to her, and now she has to fight. Now you have two sides of the coin. You have two different stories, right? You have one side where you have people who want to make the world a better place by doing it in the shadows, and on the other side you have your playable character who chose to fight but is being tossed around by different commanders and different people telling him different things because he's a CIA operator. And then his leader on that side is someone who did not want to fight but is being forced to fight because of the situation around her. Really interesting two sides of the coin, and I'm super interested to see how the story plays out and how the story kind of brings those two sides together in one cohesive story, obviously. The next thing we got is what everyone wants to know about: multiplayer. So we got two different screenshots from multiplayer. We didn't get any specific details about it, like we didn't get a trailer for it, we didn't get any gameplay of it. We just got these two different screenshots. One of the screenshots was, the three things that I took out from that one was ghillie suits, forest level, suppressed snipers. So obviously ghillie suits are returning because of the different operator packs we're going to be getting with the game. We all saw that. We saw the pre-order bonuses, so we knew that ghillie suits were returning. They talked about different ways that the ghillie suits actually move with the player, with the wind, with the grass, like with the new engine. A lot of different graphical things to make it look a lot more realistic. The forest level, nothing too crazy about it. Like, it's a forest, and it's obviously probably going to be a map in the game. And then suppressed sniper rifles coming back for this game as well. I couldn't really pick out what sniper rifle it is. I don't know if anyone can, because it was covered up by a lot of like camo and like the material from the ghillie suits to make it more look like it's embedded into the grass. But suppressed sniper rifles coming back, super dope. The next screenshot we got was the Juggernaut coming back into multiplayer, seemingly, whether that be most likely a kill streak or whether that be a certain operator you can use. The map that specific Juggernaut was on was like a broken down town, looking a lot like, was it Crossfire in Modern Warfare? I can't really put my finger on the map that was in Modern Warfare, but it looked a lot like that, like just like a broken down town, most likely in the Middle East, somewhere from the campaign, somewhere that we're probably fighting in the campaign. And yeah, so with a minigun as well. So I mean, pretty dope, right? Pretty dope. We're getting the Juggernaut back. It's a new look Juggernaut as well. It looks really buffed up and super dope. Minigun, broken down town. So those are the two multiplayer screenshots we got. They talk about Spec Ops is coming back. So the co-op mode that we're getting with this game is going to be Spec Ops, as a lot of us predicted. And that's pretty much it from the conference. That's all they talked about. A lot of campaign stuff, very minimal multiplayer and Spec Ops stuff. No Modern Warfare 2 Remastered announcement, which makes me believe that we're not actually getting that game, or maybe they're saving it for another trailer or another review or another event or something like that. So no Modern Warfare 2 Remastered announcement, a lot of campaign, little multiplayer, little Spec Ops, and I just want to finish off this video with a bit of my thoughts on all this sort of stuff. I'm super hyped for campaign. I love Call of Duty campaigns, except for Black Ops 3. I think that they're super dope, and I really get invested in the world that the developers bring and the characters that they portray, except for Black Ops 3. But yeah, like, I'm super excited for this campaign. The concept that they're bringing with it, and just the way that it seems like they're designing their levels makes me super excited to play in this world that they're creating for us. In terms of my thoughts on like multiplayer and stuff like that, we really didn't get that much, so I really can't say a lot about it. I can't really give a full-on like criticism about it or praise about it either. Like I mean, we got a couple screenshots and it looks pretty dope. And I'm super excited for the eventual reveal of that. Spec Ops coming back, my opinions on that. I mean, it's Spec Ops. It's not like the reason we're not getting zombies is because it's a realistic game, and they pitch this game as if whether you're in single player, multiplayer, Spec Ops, you're playing Modern Warfare. There's no like difference in those three game modes. Like your progress, the story, the world, and everything like that is those three game modes, right? There's no real stray away from that. I feel like if Infinity Ward brought zombies into it as the third game mode, you'd be like, okay, so you have single player and multiplayer, which is the Modern Warfare universe, and then you have zombies, which is like the same universe but like alternate. It's just an alternate universe, but looks and feels like the same thing, right? So the fact that they're bringing Spec Ops into it doesn't bother me, and it doesn't excite me either, to be honest. I mean, Spec Ops is cool and all, but I'll probably play it a little bit and then forget about it after that. Just depends on what they do with it. If they do something like they did with Modern Warfare 2, where it's just a bunch of different missions varying in difficulty, it's cool, but it's not super dope. But if they do something super innovative and super cool with it, then I'm all for it. That's my opinions. Those are my thoughts. That's the breakdown of what we got in the Infinity Ward E3 panel. Obviously, there's so much more to come, so much more to analyze, so much more to learn about with this game. And this is where you're going to get all that information. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Leave a comment down below if you guys have watched the Infinity Ward E3 panel. Let me know what you guys think about all the aspects they talked about. Click subscribe if you're new here with the notification bell on. So if you miss out on any of the latest Call of Duty news, you know where you're going to get it. And that is right here. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.